The Portrait of a Lady by Henry James. The Portrait of a Lady is written by American author Henry James. It was written between 1879 1881 and was published first time in 1881 as a novel, because before it was published in American magazine The Atlantic and England magazine Macmillan. It is a psychological realism. It means it explores character, mental, and spiritual life, and also focuses on the forces and the surrounding event of the character. It affects mental and inner thought of the character. The novel setting is England, Italy, France, and United States. The novel starts with during 1860s in Albany City, New York, a young and independent lady with her father lives. She was in her early 20s. She belonged to refined and well-to-do family. When she was child, she lost her mother, and because of that reason, her father nurtured her in haphazard and unplanned way, and he always encouraged Isabel for her independence and freedom, and gives her permission to educate herself in her own way. So because of all this thing, when she converted to an adult lady, she transformed into a intelligent, confident, and slightly narcissist type of person. Means she considered herself and her priorities more superior than others. There was good reputation of Isabel in Albany City as an intelligent lady, and she often seen intimidating or oppressing other male. When she became completely adult, many proposals came. One of them was Caspar Goodwood, who was very charming and powerful gentleman, and he was the son of mill owner of Boston City. Isabel became attractive towards him for some time, but later she decided that she can't marry him because, according to her, if she marry with him, she will have to sacrifice her freedom and independence. That's why she rejected her proposal. Later, after some time, her father dies. Then her maternal aunt, whose name was Mrs. Touchett, who lives in England, visits Isabel and offers her to go on a Europe trip with her. Isabel thought that there is no one here, so she decided to go with her England. When Isabel arrived at her house, Garden Court, with her aunt, where she met Mr. Touchett, his son Ralph Touchett, and his friend Lord Warburton, and discussing about Lord Warburton's marriage, that he is not interested in it until he finds a suitable one. When Isabel arrives there, Mrs. Touchett and Ralph warmly welcome her and greets her. They all were attracted towards her because of her good nature and beauty, and she also leaves a strong impression on them. Mrs. Touchett is a powerful and wealthy banker, but nowadays his health is not good because of his old age. Ralph Touchett, Isabel's cousin, has also a lung disorder. Because of that, he was dying slowly and slowly. After living 4 months in Garden Court, she was attracted towards Touchett family's kindness and rural lifestyle, and spent most of her time with her uncle Anne Touchett and her cousin Ralph. Because of her positive energy and listening to creative ideas of her, they feel better despite their bad health problem. Mrs. Touchett also feel happy, but she spent most of her time in her room. During this 4 months, Isabel spent her time with Lord Warburton also. Slowly, Lord Warburton falls in love with Isabel. He invites her to her castle to show some architectural design, and there she meets his 2 sisters, and he suddenly proposes Isabel there. Because of that, she becomes shocked, but she rejects his proposal very politely. The rejection doesn't have much impact on him. They still meet with each other in Garden Court and talks. Later, Isabel's journalist friend Henrietta Stackpole come to England for reporting European lifestyle and social culture in her newspaper. Isabel always idealized her friend Henrietta because of her personal independence and her successful career, and she invited her to her aunt's house, Gardencourt. When Henrietta comes and she noticed that Isabel American values are slowly ending, it was replacing by European unrealistic, romantic, impractical ideas. Ralph helped her to report the European lifestyle and experiencing London's social scene. During that time, Goodwood came in London to meet Isabel and start pressuring her for marriage. Isabella becomes so much angry that she said that she wants 2 years to think and decide. During reporting time, Ralph got news from his house to come, and he get to know that his father has become so much ill. That's why he has to go home as soon as possible. Ralph and Isabel left Henrietta in London and came Gardencourt and meets Mr. Touchett friend and meets Mr. Touchett friend Mrs. Morley. Now Ralph has become attached to Isabel, and he wants Isabel to complete her dream and remain independent. That's why Ralph and his friend father give some part of the property to Isabel so that she would not have to sacrifice her freedom because of money in future. Isabel became very sad after the death of Mr. Churchill, but she was very surprised why his uncle has left so much property and asset for her, but accepted it as a gift of her uncle and promises that she will use this money to make a change in the world. But her aunt and her friend Henrietta warns him to be careful because there is so much responsibility and risk to have this property. Mrs. Morley, Mrs. Touch's friend, who was staying there at Gardencourt, gets greedy for the money and her property. She gets close with Isabel and become friend of her to talk the advantage of her money. Next, what happens? Isabella start the Europe trip with her aunt and start exploring Europe, different countries and locations like England, France and Italy. When she was exploring one of the city of Italy, Florence, Madame Morley introduced Isabel her friend Gilbert Osmond. Madame Morley told her that Gilbert is one of the most finest gentlemen because he has completely devoted himself for art and aesthetics. However, the main aim of Madame Morley was to make a benefit of Isabel money and property. That's why want the marriage of Gilbert and Isabel. Gilbert is very much older than Isabel. His wife is also dead and has a 15-year daughter Pansy and a sister Gemini. Apart from all this, Gemini, Gilbert is an artist and not much richer. That's why Madame Morley plans with him to marry Isabel so that we can make benefit of her money, and she fixes a meeting between Gilbert and Isabel. Isabel becomes attracted toward Gilbert because he has taken the experience of the world and he has an artistic taste, but she doesn't know the evil intention of Madame Morley. After 4 months, Gilbert proposes Isabel for marriage. She accepted it despite the fact that all the family members denies it to that, but she agrees by thinking that she will get a sophistication in her. She will get sophistication in her. For that reason, she came to Europe. After 1 year of marriage, they have a son, but he dies after 6 months. After 3 years of marriage, they were living an unhappy married life in one of Rome city, where Gilbert treats her like she is the part of her art collection. She was not happy with this married life because she got to know the real face of Gilbert. He is dominated, cheater, and a kind of selfish man who only have interest in her money. Gilbert's daughter Pansy loves Isabel and they have a beautiful bond with each other. Apart from all this, Pansy childhood friend Edwards loves her. Isabel support their relationship, but when Gilbert gets to know, he denies it by saying Edward is a art collector and he has not bright future and has not much money. He was interested in Lord Warburton for Pansy relationship because he is wealthy and belonged to aristocrat family. He was the man whom Isabel had rejected in friendly manner, and now he tries to come closer to Isabel through Pansy. During a dance party program, Isabel said to Warburton about Pansy and Edward relationship, and then asked, "Are you really love Pansy?" And then Warburton told all the truth, that he doesn't love Pansy, returned from Rome. After this incident, Gilbert became angry with Isabel, and he feels that Isabel has done deliberately to insult him. Madame Marley too became furious over her and asked, "What have you said to him that make him return from Rome?" At this point, Isabel doubted that something is wrong between Gilbert and Madame Marley, about which she doesn't know. At the end of the novel, suddenly Ralph becomes ill, and he was on the last stage of his life in England. Mrs. Tustis requests Isabel to come Garden Court, but her husband Gilbert doesn't want her to go and didn't give permission. Isabel goes to Gilbert's sister Gemini and gets to know the Pansy, the daughter of Gilbert and Madame Marley, and Pansy doesn't know about it. After telling Gemini, encouraged her to go and meet her cousin Ralph. After reaching Ralph, she told him that he was right about Gilbert. He is not good man, but accepted that because of money and property today her spirit and happiness has spoiled, and she was caught in this situation after that Ralph dies. Isabel stays for some time in Garden Court, and during that time, Lord Warburton and Caspar Goodwood suggest her to have to leave. Gilbert even to leave. Even Caspar Goodwood offered her to go somewhere with him, but at last she returned to Rome to Gilbert and Pansy, because if she break this marriage, she will become morally corrupt like Mrs. Marley. That's why she returned to Rome.